I never thought a wedding toast would end up gutting me like a fish. Carter raised his champagne flute high under the soft-lit sconces of the private room at the Brass Olive, a vineyard restaurant out in Napa, and said, "To family, my new one, my real one." Then he gestured to Brooke's mother, Donna, in her sequined mauve jacket, and called her, "Mom." The room clapped. My hand hovered, glass untouched. "And to our housekeeper," he added with a crooked smile, "Renate, who keeps the place standing." Someone laughed. Maybe more than one. I heard it from behind my own eyes. I didn't say a word. I stood up, quiet as my profession taught me, and walked out. No one stopped me, not even my son. The hallway outside smelled like roasted duck and lavender soap. I clutched my purse like a shield, my shoes loud on the old wood as I passed the hostess stand. The cool air hit my skin like a slap when I pushed through the heavy front door. It was June 1st, 2024, a Saturday evening just shy of 7 o'clock. The golden hour, they call it, but my insides were gray. I got into my car. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I simply pulled up the wire transfer receipt on my phone. $150,000, sent March 14th for catering, venue, and 2 custom dresses, and took a screenshot. I knew I'd need it. I was halfway down Silverado Trail when my phone buzzed. A message from an old church friend. "Is this you?" Video attached. Carter's toast red heart. I pulled over near a field of white roses and watched myself. Back row, corner seat, clasping my hands in my lap like a hired server. You could hear him say it again. "Our housekeeper." The video ended with laughter. No names, no corrections, just me. I drove home in silence. By the time I hit the 580 ramp back toward Oakland, the vineyards were a blur of green and gold in my side mirror. I didn't play music, didn't even roll down the windows. I just talked, soft, deliberate, into my notes app. "Renate Jackson," I said. 65. Retired public librarian, widow, mother of 1. Alive. The last word caught in my throat. Alive. I had to say it again to believe it. A semi roared past. I gripped the wheel tighter, knuckles the color of salt. My name sounded like a chant in the cab of that Corolla. I kept saying it like someone doing CPR. Renate Jackson, born September 17, 1958. Daughter of May and Louis Jackson, Bakersfield, California. Married once, buried him myself. 42 years on the Oakland City payroll. Never late, never loud. I passed the Fruitvale exit. Home was close. A little condo on Grand near Lake Merritt, 2 bedrooms and a balcony where I used to read the Sunday paper with my husband Vernon. He'd leave the comics for last. Called it dessert. He died in that same chair 5 summers ago, a crossword half finished on his lap. When the house came into view, I parked but didn't get out right away. I sat with the engine off and stared at my hands. I had catered every baby shower, every birthday, every scraped knee and lost job. I had kept every program from Carter's school plays. I had saved my pension, clipped coupons, held bake sales when Brooke was in nursing school. I did everything a mother should do. And yet, somewhere in that cloud of applause, I became invisible. I walked up the steps. My door still knew me. My keys still turned. I was still here. And I had documents to prove it. A laminated birth certificate, my library retirement notice from May 2021, and Vernon's obituary, published June 18, 2019, with my number at the bottom for condolences no one sent. I took them out of the filing box that night, laid them on the dining table like armor. If no one else remembered who I was, I would. By morning, the quiet felt familiar again. I slipped on my windbreaker, tied my walking shoes, and left the house before 7. The summer air was already warming up, but Lake Merritt still held its hush. A few joggers passed me on the loop, headphones in, eyes down. I nodded at Ms. Carla from the rec center, who waved with her water bottle like always. The same herons stalked the shoreline, The same older man sat near the boathouse playing chess with himself. This was my rhythm. The walk. Then the church newsletter. Wednesdays, I volunteered at St. James Baptist, folding bulletins, stuffing envelopes, answering phones when Pastor Rochelle got too many robocalls. Nothing glamorous, but it gave me structure. Some place to be where people said my name right and meant it. Miss Renate, can you check the copier? Renate, the stamps are on the bookshelf, I think, and I'd say let me handle it. I didn't tell anyone about the wedding. Not yet. Back home, I logged in and sent my weekly bulletin draft. Subject line: Upcoming events, faith in action. My fingers hesitated on the keyboard before signing off. I deleted regards, typed in grace instead. After lunch, I wrote a check for $75, sealed it in a church envelope, and set it by the door. Habit. Every month, no matter what. My mama taught me, when you give, you name your future. But that afternoon, as I folded the dish towels and wiped down the counter, I paused. All the giving I'd done. Where had it left me? Not at the wedding table. Not in a single photo. I opened the hall closet. On the shelf above the board games and tax boxes, a pink paper bag held a silk shawl I'd planned to wear for the ceremony. It still smelled like lavender sachet. I touched the fabric, thought about how careful I'd been not to outshine the bride. I left the bag in place, closed the closet door. Outside, traffic passed. The world kept going. My name was still mine. My calendar still had Wednesdays. And I still had the loop around Lake Merritt, 3.2 miles start to finish. That night, I sat at my dining table and opened my wedding folder. Not the kind with lace and ribbon, the kind with tax receipts and email printouts. Every dollar I'd given them over the last 3 years sat right there in black and white. I had the paper trail because I always kept records. Not out of suspicion, out of care. The first email was from January 3rd, 2022. Subject line: Brooke's tuition update shopbooks. That was back when Brooke still went by her middle name. She'd written, I hate to ask again, but registration's due. Just $2, $300 left after grants. I wired it that same day. Then came Carter's car loan. April 2022. He needed a co-signer for a used Subaru. Said he wanted to start driving Uber part-time. I put my name on it. I didn't even ask for insurance proof. Why would I? He was my boy. Then the wedding planning began. In March 2023, they sent me a link to the Brass Olives brochure with hearts in the message. Would be a dream to do it here. Can't afford it without your help, though. Pensive face ring. I forwarded it to my banker the next day. Wired $150,000 total in 4 installments. $50,000 for the venue, $42,000 for catering, $8,000 for the string quartet Brooke swore would make her dad cry, and the rest across the dress, photographer, deposit on the honeymoon Airbnb in Florence. They called me Mom every time they needed something. I replayed those moments in my mind like a film scored in minor keys. Brooke once said, with a laugh too tight, "You're more like a funder than a mother-in-law, really." I'd smiled, thought it was a joke, thought the sting was my imagination. Now I knew better. As I sorted through the receipts, I reached a text from March 15th, 2024. Can you zell us $300 real quick? Ran into a caterer issue, blew it, promise it's the last thing. It wasn't. I opened the banking app. The joint account I'd set up in 2021, account number 2856, was still active. My name? Carter's name. All withdrawals had been his for months. I sat there, the kitchen dim but for the light over the table. These weren't gifts anymore. They were evidence. That night, I sat at my dining table and opened my wedding folder, not the kind with lace and ribbon, the kind with tax receipts and email printouts. Every dollar I'd given them over the last 3 years sat right there in black and white. I had the paper trail because I always kept records. Not out of suspicion, out of care. The first email was from January 3rd, 2022. Subject line: Brooke's tuition update shop books. That was back when Brooke still went by her middle name. She'd written, I hate to ask again, but registration's due. Just $2, $300 left after grants. I wired it that same day. Then came Carter's car loan. April 2022. He needed a co-signer for a used Subaru. Said he wanted to start driving Uber part-time. I put my name on it. I didn't even ask for insurance proof. Why would I? He was my boy. Then the wedding planning began. In March 2023, they sent me a link to the Brass Olives brochure with hearts in the message. Would be a dream to do it here. Can't afford it without your help, though. Pensive face ring. I forwarded it to my banker the next day. Wired $150,000 total in 4 installments. $50,000 for the venue, $42,000 for catering, $8,000 for the string quartet Brooke swore would make her dad cry, and the rest across the dress, photographer deposit on the honeymoon Airbnb in Florence. They called me Mom every time they needed something. I replayed those moments in my mind like a film scored in minor keys. Brooke once said, with a laugh too tight, "You're more like a funder than a mother-in-law, really." I'd smiled. Thought it was a joke. Thought the sting was my imagination. Now I knew better. As I sorted through the receipts, I reached a text from March 15, 2024. "Can you Zelle us $300 real quick? Ran into a caterer issue, blew it, promise it's the last thing." It wasn't. I opened the banking app. The joint account I'd set up in 2021, account number 2856, was still active. My name, Carter's name. All withdrawals had been his for months. I sat there, the kitchen dim, but for the light over the table. These weren't gifts anymore. They were evidence. I renamed the spreadsheet. Not wedding budget anymore. Not support. I titled it What They Took, bold, size 18 font, frozen in the header row. I spent the entire morning cataloging it line by line. Rent, utilities, food, co-pays, travel. Little emergencies that always arrived like clockwork right after a brunch post or a new shoe photo on Brooke's Instagram. $33, $400. That was the final count. Separate from the wedding, separate from tuition. That was just the day-to-day keeping them afloat money. Rent, $500. By 36 months, equals $18,000. Groceries and supplies, average $200 per mo, equals $7. 200 birthday and holiday gifts, approximates $3,000. Medical emergencies, urgent care, dental, $800 car loan repayment, installments never made, $2, $500. Misty AC repair, furniture, subscriptions, $1, $900. I printed it, held the pages in my hand. My printer wheezed like it knew the weight of what it was producing. Just then, a text lit up my phone. "Brooke, rent's due, you forgot?" No punctuation. No, please. Just the quiet entitlement of someone who'd trained me too well. I didn't reply. Instead, I took the spreadsheet and folded it into a manila envelope. Labeled it in black marker, June 2024, personal. Slid it into the file drawer beneath my tax returns and insurance policy. For the first time in a long while, I didn't feel like a helper, or a burden, or a wallet. I felt like a witness. I poured myself some orange tea, sat in the chair where Vernon used to sort his baseball cards. I thought about how we'd raised Carter to say thank you, how we'd made him sign handwritten notes after every Christmas. What had gone wrong between then and now? No, not what, when. I didn't see it at the time. But now, that day in April pulsed in my memory like a blinking warning light. It was April 28, 2024, a Sunday. I was sitting at my kitchen table with a wrapped gift on my lap, a $120 Nordstrom gift card tucked into a gold envelope I'd bought at the dollar store. The ribbon had little champagne flutes printed on it. It was for the bachelorette brunch. I'd gotten the date off their wedding website and even called the salon to double-check the venue. I had the card, I had the dress, I had my ride scheduled. But when I texted Brooke to confirm, she replied, "Oh, it's more of a family thing. You understand, right? 2 hearts." I didn't. I stared at those words like they were in another language. A family thing. Then came the group photo later that day. On Instagram, 9 women at a rooftop mimosa bar in Emeryville, beaming in floral dresses. Brooke front and center. Her sister, her mother, 2 cousins. Even one of Carter's exes, if I wasn't mistaken. Not me. I zoomed in, as if my absence were some optical illusion. But there was no seat left for me. No glass raised in my name. I'd bought the gift anyway. I kept it on the dining table all week, unopened. Carter texted later that night, "You know how she is. Just roll with it." It was small. I said nothing. But something inside me registered the shift. I wasn't mom anymore. I was an extra, an accessory, a non-essential. I took a screenshot of the group chat, the one with my name removed. I didn't know why then. But now I do. Paper trails aren't always about money. Sometimes they're about patterns. And once you start seeing them, you can't unsee. The wedding hadn't even started yet when I overheard it. June 1st, 2024, late afternoon. I had gone down the hall from the main venue room at the Brass Olive to fix my stockings. The ladies' restroom was near the service corridor, tile floors, cool air, echo chamber acoustics. As I stood by the mirror, adjusting the clasp on my necklace, I heard Brooke's voice trailing from just outside the door, light and laughing. "She'll be in assisted living soon anyway." A pause. A man's laugh. Her brother, maybe? That condo's practically ours already. Their footsteps faded. My stomach didn't. I didn't move. I just stood there, fingertips frozen at my throat, my reflection half warped by the dim gold lighting. The necklace suddenly felt like a choke chain. They were talking about my home. My paid-off condo near the lake. The one with Vernon's books still shelved in order. The one where I kept our wedding photo framed by the window that got the most sun. That wasn't a plan. That was a theft rehearsed in whispers. I didn't have the courage to confront them. Not then. Not yet. But as I stepped out, I discreetly tapped the voice memo icon on my iPhone and let it record as I walked down the hallway. Their voices were gone by then, but I caught the feel of the moment, my heels clicking, the way I paused by the gift table to breathe. Later that night, after the housekeeper toast and the long, silent drive home, I found the file still saved. Audio memo 060124.m, 4A, 47 seconds long. My soft breath, then their laughter, then the sentence, "That condo's practically ours already." I backed it up to the cloud. Not out of paranoia, out of clarity, because when someone starts counting your things before you're even cold, that's not family. That's inventory. It was the mortgage pre-application that cracked something deep inside me. June 4th, 2024. I was at home in my reading chair, still trying to settle after the wedding weekend, when I went to check my email. The browser opened automatically to my desktop homepage, Chase Bank, and there it was. A tab left open. That wasn't unusual. Carter used my computer sometimes when his laptop was acting up. I'd let him. I still believed, somewhere in the soft parts of me, that trust was love. But this time the page said, "Chase Home Loan Pre-Approval. In progress." I clicked, and I saw it. Applicant: Brooke Carter, property address 2118 Grand Avenue, Oakland, California, 94610. Co-resident, Renate Jackson. Verified affidavit, uploaded. I blinked so hard, I thought my contacts might pop out. My name, my address, a forged co-residency affidavit, a PDF with my name typed below a scrawled signature I'd never made. The condo wasn't even in Carter's name. Vernon and I had bought it in 1997 for $163,000, paid it off in full before he passed, no liens, no loans. And yet here it was, listed as collateral on an application I never consented to. I called Carter, no answer, texted him a screenshot, me, explain, now. 20 minutes later he replied, "You're overreacting. It's just paperwork." Just paperwork. I took another screenshot, then another, then I printed it. 4 pages. I stapled them together and slid them into a red folder marked mortgage fraud. The 4th of June 24. I didn't cry this time. I logged out of the computer. Then, quietly, I took my keys and locked the desk drawer. If they could forge a document about where I lived, they could do worse. They were already doing worse. I made tea. I didn't drink it. I sat at the table and stared at the printed affidavit. My name and a fake signature. I whispered to the empty room, "This is how they take things from women like me." Then I whispered, "Not today." I thought maybe if I spoke calmly, they'd remember I was human. June 5th, 2024. I invited them to dinner. I roasted chicken thighs with rosemary and lemon. Made rice with toasted almonds, Carter's favorite since he was little. Set the table with cloth napkins. I even chilled a bottle of Chardonnay they'd left behind months ago. I wanted no room for accusations. No fire. Just air and truth. They arrived late. Brooke didn't look up from her phone as she walked in. Carter kissed my cheek like nothing had happened. We ate in silence for the first few bites. The kind of silence that's pretending to be peace. Then I said, "I saw the Chase application." Carter froze. Brooke didn't. She stabbed at her chicken like it owed her money. "I don't understand why you'd do that," I continued. "You don't live here. You never have. That's mortgage fraud. That's my home." Brooke sighed like I'd asked her to solve a math problem on a Sunday. "Renee," she said, smiling with no warmth. "It was just a form. A draft. We didn't submit it. Yet," I said. Carter leaned back. His tone was mild, practiced. "Mom, you're stressed. You've been off. We didn't mean anything by it. You're reading into things too much." "Like being called the housekeeper?" I asked. My voice didn't rise, but it had edge now, cold as cutlery. Brooke laughed once, dry. "That's what you're still upset about? That little joke?" I stood then. Not fast, not angry, just steady. "I need space," I said. Carter blinked. "Space?" I nodded. "Time. Away from both of you. I need to think about what's mine. And what isn't yours." Brooke scraped her chair back. "You're being paranoid," Carter added. "You're too old for money stress, Mom." That's when I knew. Not just suspected. Knew. They didn't see me anymore. Not as Renee. Not as a mother. Not even as a person. Just as a ledger with legs. Brooke texted me later that night. "Let's talk when you're less emotional." I took a screenshot. Labeled it Gaslight Text 65.png. Filed it under boundary. I went to bed with the door locked. I thought maybe if I spoke calmly, they'd remember I was human. June 5th, 2024. I invited them to dinner. I roasted chicken thighs with rosemary and lemon. Made rice with toasted almonds, Carter's favorite since he was little. Set the table with cloth napkins. I even chilled a bottle of Chardonnay they'd left behind months ago. I wanted no room for accusations, no fire, just air and truth. They arrived late. Brooke didn't look up from her phone as she walked in. Carter kissed my cheek like nothing had happened. We ate in silence for the first few bites, the kind of silence that's pretending to be peace. Then I said, "I saw the Chase application." Carter froze. Brooke didn't. She stabbed at her chicken like it owed her money. "I don't understand why you do that," I continued. "You don't live here. You never have. That's mortgage fraud. That's my home." Brooke sighed, like I'd asked her to solve a math problem on a Sunday. "Renee," she said, smiling with no warmth. "It was just a form, a draft. We didn't submit it." "Yet?" I said. Carter leaned back. His tone was mild, practiced. "Mom, you're stressed. You've been off. We didn't mean anything by it. You're reading into things too much." "Like being called the housekeeper?" I asked. My voice didn't rise. But it had edge now, cold as cutlery. Brooke laughed once, dry. That's what you're still upset about? That little joke? I stood then. Not fast, not angry, just steady. I need space, I said. Carter blinked. Space? I nodded. Time. Away from both of you. I need to think about what's mine. And what isn't yours. Brooke scraped her chair back. You're being paranoid, Carter added. You're too old for money stress, Mom. That's when I knew. Not just suspected. Knew. They didn't see me anymore. Not as Renate. Not as a mother. Not even as a person. Just as a ledger with legs. Brooke texted me later that night. Let's talk when you're less emotional. I took a screenshot. Labeled it. Gaslight text 65.png. Filed it under boundary. I went to bed with the door locked. June 6, 2024, 8:42 a.m. I sat at my bedroom desk with the drawer open, where Vernon used to keep his bank ledgers, and I kept my old poetry books. There, in a blank yellow folder, I started to write. Longhand first, then typed, plain black font, left aligned. No flourishes. I, Renate Jackson of Oakland, California, being of sound mind and body. I paused. My hand trembled a little. I said the next sentence aloud to steady myself. I owe them nothing. Not out of bitterness, but out of clarity. I left the house to walk to the library printing kiosk, the same branch where I shelved books for 42 years. The smell of paper and old carpet still made me feel like I belonged somewhere. Back home, I drafted the new distribution. 70% of my estate to the Literacy First Foundation, the one Vernon and I donated to every December. 30% to my niece Carla, a paralegal in Eastlake who used to spend summers with us folding origami and reading Judy Blume. She still called every birthday, still sent handwritten thank you notes. I left Carter's name off entirely. I didn't flinch when I did it. Around 3 p.m., my voicemail icon lit up. I let it ring out, but saved the audio. It was Carter. Mom, look, we don't want to fight, but if you keep pushing us out like this, you'll regret it. He sounded tired, or trying to sound tired. I couldn't tell anymore. I filed the voicemail as regret threat 66.m4a. Then I called an attorney, Denise Paulson, recommended by Carla. I scheduled a consultation for Friday. She said to bring everything: bank records, house deed, existing wills, transfer slips. I printed them all, filed them in a black accordion folder Vernon once used for taxes. Before bed, I placed the draft will on my nightstand. No candle, no photo, just that. Proof that I remembered who I was, even when my own son didn't. June 7th, 2024. The Bank of the West branch on 23rd and Harrison still had the same chipped tile by the door, and the faint scent of floor polish and printer ink. I'd been coming here since before Carter hit puberty. The teller knew me by name. But today I wasn't here for pleasantries. I had one goal: sever the feed. I stepped to the counter with my folder and asked to speak with the branch manager. A few minutes later, Kevin Harrell, a slim man in his 40s with a calm voice and lavender tie, ushered me into his office. Mrs. Jackson, he said, offering a seat. What can I help with today? I handed him a sticky note. It read, Close joint account number 2856. Cancel all recurring transfers. Remove Carter Jackson from access. Secure PIN reset. Reissue new debit card. Freeze mortgage-linked alerts. Kevin raised an eyebrow. Big change, he said gently. Big year, I replied. He didn't ask questions, just clicked through tabs with quiet efficiency. Just confirming. This account was primarily outgoing, correct? Monthly transfers to a linked Chase account? I nodded. Carter Jackson. He's my son. Kevin paused a beat. We'll keep this private. But just so you're aware, any attempt to access the closed account will bounce. Do you want us to notify the other party? I shook my head. Let the bounce do the talking. He smiled slightly. Understood. I signed 3 forms, initialed a 4th. Then he slid me a printed confirmation slip with a small red stamp. Account terminated. The 7th of June, 2024 KH. I folded it into my wallet like a badge. As I walked out, my phone buzzed. Voicemail. Brooke. Renate, you left us stranded. The rent's due. You said we could always count on you. Remember that? This is not okay. I saved it. Titled the file, Brooke voicemail stranded.m. 4. Back home, I made a cup of tea. The silence in the kitchen felt richer. Not empty, but full. Like I'd made space for something new. I held the new debit card in my palm. It felt light. So did I. By morning, I was a woman with a scanner and a mission. June 8, 2024. I spent most of it in my home office. Sweater off, glasses on, the steady beep of the flatbed scanner filling the room like a metronome. Receipts. Text threads. Screenshots. Wire confirmations. Voicemails transcribed. Mortgage application printouts. My will. The property deed. All of it. Each file got its own folder on a labeled flash drive. Renate Proofs, 2024, Financial, Properties Audio, Legal, Communications, Ledger Final. XLSX. I uploaded a copy to a secure cloud account under a password only I knew, written on the back of a recipe card tucked in my Bible, Psalm 147, plus the name of Vernon's favorite jazz album. Then I bagged up the flash drive, the paper versions, and a notarized copy of my property deed, the one with the official stamp from 1997 when we paid off the condo. I slid it all into a padded envelope and drove it straight to Carla's house in Eastlake. She opened the door in sweats, holding a toddler on her hip. "Auntie, you okay?" she asked. I nodded. "Just insurance." She kissed my cheek and tucked the envelope under a stack of case files on her dining table. "Anything I should know?" "Not yet," I said. "But soon." On the way back, I stopped by the FedEx on Broadway. Paid $20 even for extra scans. Color, double-sided, PDF backups. At home, my inbox pinged. Subject, quick tax question. From carterjackson84@gmail.com. Hey Mom, need access to your tax files again, just to check something for the accountant. Can you send the login? Or let me come by? I stared at the message. Didn't reply. I took a screenshot. Filed it. Carter Tax Access 68.png. Then I changed my TurboTax password. Enabled two-factor authentication. Security question. What street did you grow up on? I didn't pick the real answer. I typed, none you need to know. June 10th, 2024. Monday. The church multi-purpose room smelled like lemon floor wax and old hymnals. I arrived 5 minutes early, as always. Carla was already there, notepad in hand. Denise Paulson, my lawyer, arrived soon after in crisp navy slacks and a tablet case under her arm. And then came Pastor Rochelle, in a long lavender cardigan, carrying 2 mugs of mint tea. I had called the meeting. No pretense, no panic. Just 3 women I trusted in a circle of folding chairs near the piano. I pulled out my accordion folder, unlatched the top. I need each of you, I said, in a different way. Carla took notes while I reviewed the timeline. Every dollar, every step, every betrayal. I read excerpts aloud. You're just the housekeeper. That condo's practically ours. We only invited special people. We'll talk when you're less emotional. You'll regret this. I passed around the ledger. The deed. The Chase application with my forged signature. The printed will. The email asking for tax access. Denise tapped her stylus against her tablet. This is more than sufficient. she said. We'll formalize your revocation of power of attorney, submit a will notarization, and prepare a cease and desist letter if they attempt another move. Carla added, I'll store backups off-site, lockbox at my firm. Pastor Rochelle looked me dead in the eye. And when the time comes, she said, we'll stand with you. In full view. That quiet broke something in me. Not pain, not grief, just release. My shoulders dropped for the first time in weeks. As we wrapped up, Denise handed me a receipt. $250 retainer. Paid in full. I tucked it into the folder. Later that night, I logged into the church admin site to upload the upcoming volunteer schedule. There it was at the bottom of the group's public page. 1-star review. Church is nice but toxic elder. Be careful who you trust here. B.L. Brooke. I took a screenshot. Then I clicked report abuse and moved on. I'd spent my life serving libraries, sermons, and ungrateful people. But not anymore. Now I had names, roles, proof. Now I had a circle. June 11th, 2024. Downtown Oakland. The post office on Clay Street still had the echo of 1980s floor tiles and the solemn rhythm of bureaucracy. I stepped in with one envelope and one truth. The letter was printed on ivory bond paper. Certified. Notarized by Denise. It read, To Carter Jackson and Brooke Jackson, this is formal notice of revocation. Any attempt to access, sell, refinance, or claim rights over my property at 2118 Grand Avenue, whether by mortgage application, listing, or occupancy, will be treated as fraud. All power of attorney previously granted is now void. Any further interference will be pursued through civil litigation. Sincerely, Renee Jackson. I slid it into a USPS certified mail envelope, attached the tracking slip, and watched the clerk scan it with a beep that felt like the slamming of a gate. Tracking number 7019120000187652307. Delivery requested. Signature required. I kept the receipt. Stapled it to the back of my folder with a note. Sent the 11th of June, 24. Delivered. Pending. By the time I got home, the sun was sharp enough to sting. My porch was quiet. But my phone wasn't. Carter had texted. Just one line. You're making this harder than it has to be. I read it twice, then filed it as Carter Guilt Push 611.png number reply. Back inside, I poured a glass of water and sat in the chair by the window, the one Vernon used to call the throne. I looked out at the maple tree he planted before he got sick. It was in full green now, branches reaching out like arms. For the first time in this ordeal, I didn't feel like I was reacting. I had made a move. Not with fire, not with shouting, but with stamps and signatures and certified ink. I checked the tracking status online. Still in transit. But me? I was no longer waiting. I was building the line they could not cross. And soon, I would show them the consequences of trying. June 13th, 2024. Thursday afternoon. I was trimming basil on the balcony when I heard tires in the driveway. Not one car. 3. My son's black Civic, Brooke's leased SUV, and one I didn't recognize. Gray Lexus sedan, tinted windows, spotless. I knew before the knock came what kind of visit this was. I didn't open right away. Took my time. Put the scissors down. Wiped my hands. Slid my phone into my sweater pocket and tapped record before touching the knob. When I opened the door, Carter stood there, arms folded. Brooke behind him, arms crossed. And a man in a fitted suit, holding a briefcase, wearing that bland smile lawyers practice in mirrors. "Mom," Carter said, already tense. "We need to talk." I stepped aside. Said nothing. They walked in like it was still their house. The man introduced himself without offering a card. "Dr. Marcus Fisher. I'm a family law specialist. Your children have concerns about your mental well-being." Brooke sat on my couch, crossed her legs like she belonged there. Carter stood at the dining table, already rummaging through a folder labeled Concerns. My pulse didn't spike. My voice didn't shake. I said, "You can leave those right in the trash." Carter's face twitched. "Mom, we're worried. You changed the accounts. You won't return our messages. You're isolating. You forged a mortgage," I said plainly. Dr. Fisher held up a hand. "Mrs. Jackson, sometimes when seniors become paranoid or overly suspicious, it's a sign of cognitive decline. We're just here to help evaluate." "Evaluate this," I said, and walked to the drawer by the fridge, pulled out the red mortgage fraud folder, and dropped it on the table. Printed screenshots, voice memos, deed copies. Carla, from the hallway, lifted her phone. "Recording started 10 minutes ago." Brooke paled. Dr. Fisher blinked. "You invited someone else here?" Carter snapped. "She lives here now," I said. "Temporary arrangement. Witness included." Dr. Fisher shifted tactics. "We'd like to propose a temporary guardianship, just until things stabilize." I picked up the proposal packet, thick, tabbed, full of assumptions, and without opening it, dropped it straight into the kitchen trash. Then I pointed at the door. "All of you, out." Brooke's voice cracked. "You can't just... Renate, you don't need me. You need my money." And I revoked that. Carter tried again, quiet. "You're being cruel." "No," I said. "I'm being done." And for the first time in my life, my son looked small. June 16th, 2024. Sunday, 3 p.m. The folding chairs were already set up when I arrived. St. James Hall, multipurpose room. 74 metal chairs arranged in neat rows, the big screen projector glowing faint blue at the front. I stood behind the podium, script folded once in my hand. Behind me sat Carla, in a navy blazer. Denise, looking every inch a litigator. And Pastor Rochelle, quiet and steady, holding a notepad and a Bible. We'd named the event Estate Plan and Future Wishes, a faith-based conversation on boundaries, protection, and peace. No one suspected the undercurrent. Not yet. I invited the church board, a few neighbors, members of the women's committee, even the youth treasurer, who'd helped me reset the Wi-Fi once. Word had gotten around that something important would be shared. At 3:06 p.m., the doors opened again. Carter walked in, smirking. Brooke behind him, in a white jumpsuit, hair too perfect. They took seats in the second row, center. Didn't wave, didn't blink. I began with a story. "My late husband, Vernon," I said, "taught me that justice without documentation is just noise, and I've lived long enough to know some storms are man-made." A few chuckled. Most just watched. Then the projector screen lit up. Slide 1. 3 years of support, the financial trail. It began like a sermon. Soft, calm. Wire receipts. $150. $800 in wedding and life support. Spreadsheet breakdowns. Rent logs. Car loan payments. Tuition subsidies. Slide 2. Mortgage application. Fraudulent use of 2118 Grand Avenue. Their forged affidavit, enlarged. Slide 3. Text and voicemail samples. Direct quotes, timed and dated. Gaslighting. Entitlement. The term housekeeper, gasps from the crowd. A whispered, "Lord have mercy," from the back. Then I turned to them. Carter had paled. Brooke crossed her arms, jaw tight. "You've had every chance to choose dignity," I said, my voice steady. "Instead, you chose erasure. You chose theft masked as dependency. And when I withdrew access, you tried to claim I'd lost my mind." I held up the red mortgage fraud folder. "This is who you tried to disappear." Then I stepped aside. Denise walked to the mic, explained the will, the revoked power of attorney, the notarized deed, and the certified letter, already delivered. Pastor Rochelle rose and said, "Let the record reflect, witnessed, confirmed, and preserved by this house of God." The room erupted in low murmurs. I stood there, not triumphant, not cruel, just clear. The show was over. The silence after the final slide was the kind that hums. Not stunned silence, reckoning silence. The kind that fills the lungs of people who've just realized they were watching a different story than the one they thought they knew. Brooke stood first. Her face was tight, trembling with rage she hadn't yet shaped into words. "This is a setup," she spat. "You brought us here to humiliate us." "No," I said. "You did that yourselves." Carter remained seated, blinking fast, mouth half open. Denise stepped forward with the final document, the notarized summary of the will, and passed copies to Pastor Rochelle and the church board chair. "Filed as of June 6th, she announced. "Executor, Carla Thomas. Beneficiaries, Literacy First Foundation and Ms. Thomas. All assets protected and accounted for. All prior claims revoked." I clicked the projector remote one last time. Final slide. Total contributions rendered $150, $800-202-22-2024, followed by itemized images, transfers, Zelle logs, email chains. "Receipts," I said, quiet. Carter finally spoke. "Mom, please, you're blowing this out of proportion. We were just trying to help you make smart decisions." "By faking documents in my name?" Carla said, rising to her feet. Brooke turned to the crowd. "You don't know what she's like. She forgets things. She's unstable." Pastor Rochelle raised a hand. "I've known Sister Jackson for over 20 years, she said, her voice cool but firm. "She's coordinated church archives, managed funds, supported this congregation with clarity and care. This isn't instability. This is boundaries." Brooke's face crumpled. Carter looked up at me like a man caught mid-con. "You're choosing outsiders over us," he whispered. "No," I replied. "I'm choosing truth over manipulation, legacy over guilt. You chose to become outsiders when you treated me like an asset, instead of a mother." Someone in the back clapped once. Then again. Brooke stormed out. Her heels echoed across the linoleum like gunfire. Carter followed, slower. He looked over his shoulder once, and then he was gone. Denise gathered the remaining documents. Carla hugged me, her arms tight, her breath warm on my shoulder. "You did it," she whispered. "No," I thought. "They did it. I just held the mirror up." June 17th, 2024. Monday. The locksmith finished by 9:12 a.m. New locks. New keys. I paid $275 in cash and handed the second copy to Carla. The old keys went into a mason jar, sealed and stored in the back of the hall closet. Later that day, at the Oakland title office, I added Carla as beneficiary on the deed. No co-owners. No back doors. The $84 fee was worth every cent. My name stayed alone at the top, just as it should be. As I walked home, my phone buzzed. An email from Brooke. Subject: "You'll die alone. Be alone. You lost your family today." I filed it under receipts. Didn't flinch. Didn't reply. Because I hadn't lost family. I had drawn a boundary where grief used to live. That evening, I made tea. Set the new keys on the marble tray Vernon gave me on our 30th anniversary. The house felt quiet in a good way. The door clicked shut behind me, and this time, the lock held.